Good evening, Gills fans. Welcome back to another episode of Gills in the Blood TV as I look back on my own tonight at Saturday's defeat at Rochdale as we went down 3-0 despite starting the game pretty well. I don't think tonight's episode is going to be too long at the risk of repeating myself like the manager currently seems to be doing, which is a little bit concerning. Fair play to anyone who travelled all the way up there to watch that. I've heard it wasn't, well, to say it wasn't very good is probably generous, aside from the first sort of 15-20 minutes where we started bright enough but then conceded two really quickly again. So 2 goals behind in the first half for the 5th time in 10 games this season. Another concerning pattern that keeps rearing its ugly head and shows no signs of abating or going away at the moment, which is a little bit worrying. And just as worrying is the comments of this man coming up on your screen right now. That is, of course, our manager, Steve Lovell, who for the 2nd time in a fortnight decided to dig out players in public, in the press, on social media, in the paper. Headline back of today's Medway Messenger is "Time's running out. Lovell, Gills need to show character." Got no disagreement with that. That's absolutely fine. Players have got to dig in, players have got to work a bit harder. But at the same time, I think Steve Lovell, not wanting to sound like a broken record, has got to take a look at himself as well. Keep going back to it, keep saying the same thing. Doesn't want to play wingers, doesn't rate them. Again, we play a system that has wide forwards or wide attackers or wingers or whatever you want to label them on Saturday. And in the latest episode of Selection Bingo, which I have to call it, we play a right back as a right-sided forward, which for me is just, I don't know, it's lunacy. I can't understand what benefit we think we're getting from that. Clearly didn't work, looking at the player ratings, because Luke O'Neill was dragged off after, let's have a look, after 70 minutes. And finally, Navid Nasseri got some minutes in the league, which was quite surprising, considering we've played 2 or 3 people in a number 10 role in the last few weeks, and he's sat on the bench twiddling his thumbs and getting a sore backside. So yeah, this time it was a striker at left wing and a right back at right wing supporting Tom Eaves. Clearly didn't work again. And just the contradictory comments just keep coming up at the moment. But first paragraph of Luke Cordell's report inside the paper is key for me, and it just screams Adi Pennock at me, unfortunately, and that is Gillingham struggled at both ends on Saturday. How many times did we say under the football genius that we weren't ruthless in both boxes, defended softly, weren't clinical enough in front of goal? And at the moment it seems to be happening all too often under Steve Lovell again. Another quote I'm going to see, and the Gills were out-muscled. Said that last week at home to Wimbledon. We got bossed in the middle of the park and lost the game ultimately there. Another quote from the match report. Lovell had seen enough with an hour gone, and as the Gills' quality on the ball diminished in the second half, resulting to long balls forward as they grew more desperate. I think that's a word that's been used by ourselves on Matchday vlogs and Monday reviews, and I think it was used by the boys James and Reese on the Fancast recently. We do look really desperate at the moment. Lack of confidence, lack of ideas, lack of plan A, plan B, plan C for whatever reason, and it needs to change, and it needs to change really quickly. I'll go next down. I've just highlighted a few. The next one, as the Gills reverted to a 4-4-2 diamond formation, a system that's clearly not worked, yet we're going back to it time and again. Goes back to desperate, unfortunately. As I've already mentioned, Steve Lovell had started the match with Parker and Luke O'Neill as the men supporting Eaves. O'Neill, a regular at right back, was unable to have the kind of impact the manager was looking for, and he too soon went off. As I've said right at the beginning of the vlog, managers, players, everyone's got to look at themselves. Yes, if the players are not putting the effort in, or not showing enough commitment or desire once they cross the white line and that whistle goes, then fair enough, dig them out, do it in the changing room, give them a roasting, you know what I mean? But don't keep doing it in the press, because it's not helping anybody. It smacks of a manager trying to say what he thinks the fans want to hear, and I don't think it's working. I think it's having an adverse effect, and I think slowly but surely there's just a few that are starting to have doubts, myself included, because it's now 3 wins in 20 or 21 competitive fixtures going back to last season. 2 of them were right at the start of this campaign. 1 was at the back end of last season when we beat a Plymouth side that had to come and be really open at the Priestfield because they were chasing a playoff spot, so papering over cracks and stuff like that. But since Burton at home, we've been pretty poor for the best part of a month now, aside from maybe Sunderland and Walsall. Sunderland and Millwall. Walsall's another game where we gave a team a 2-0 head start. Pompey in the Checkatrade Trophy. Sunderland, we was 2 goals behind at half time. Barnsley, we were 2 goals behind at half time. It's just very, very concerning that we're not learning. We keep making the same mistakes. And then Steve Lovell comes out and digs out his players in the press. It's their fault, said the Gills manager following the 3-0 loss at Rochdale. Managers take the blame for most things. Sometimes you hold your hands up, but it's them on the pitch. Well, maybe you could hold your hands up, Steve, and take responsibility for consistently playing people in the positions where we should have wingers who are clearly not comfortable there. And maybe you could take responsibility for playing Josh Parker as a number 10, Connor Wilkinson as a number 10, Elliot List for a period as a number 10, all players that are not number 10s. And you've got, as I've already mentioned, Navid Nasseri sat on the bench twiddling his thumbs, not getting game time, despite you saying him at the end of last season and throughout the summer that you rate him and he's going to play a big part. It doesn't make sense to me. He goes on to say defensively we've been sound all season, but defensively we give them 3 goals. We haven't been sound defensively for best part of 5 or 6 weeks. 3 on Saturday. Poor goal at home to Wimbledon last week. Conceded 4 in the Checkatrade Trophy at Portsmouth. Conceded 4 at home to Sunderland. 2-0 down at Walsall, had to chase the game. 2-0 down at Barnsley, had to chase the game. Haven't got anything out of them. So doesn't make sense coming out and saying we've been defensively sound for most of the season. I think we've kept 2 clean sheets in 90 minutes. That was first day of the season at Accrington Stanley, and then at the Den about a week or so later in the EFL Trophy. Since then we've not had any shutouts, I can't recall. And we're not sure where the next one's coming from as fans, I think, at the moment. Player ratings, probably sum it up: Holy 6, Fuller 6, Amar and Lacey 5, Garmston 5, Parrott 7, Byrne Riley 6, O'Neill 5, Parker 5, Eve 6. Substitutes: List 5, Nasseri 6. Bang average again, apart from Dean Parrott, who he bigs up, says that he was very good on his first game back after a long injury layoff. But it all just seems a bit contradictory. On one hand, he's saying that everyone was poor and needs to look at themselves, and then in the next sentence he's listing about 5 or 6 of the side that have had a good game, the likes of Bradley Garmston, Barry Fuller, Callum Riley, Mark Byrne. Strange for me at the moment. I think he's losing the plot a little bit, to be quite honest, and hopefully we can arrest this slide sharpish, but it won't be easy on Saturday as we host Peterborough. I think they've only lost 1 all season, and that was at the weekend against Portsmouth, who are now top, so that's going to be tricky. They've conceded only 9 goals in 8 games and they've scored 20, so with our recent defensive record that looks like it's going to be a bit of a slog, but fingers crossed. And then finally, he has a massive pop this week. It seems to be that he has to pick 2 every week at the moment to dig out in the press. Last week it was Tom Eaves and Elliot List, and also Connor Wilkinson a little bit. This week he's decided to switch his attention to the defenders, and it's Alex Lacey and Max Amar getting an absolute caning in the paper. Steve Lovell believes his Gillingham side are too nice and that his centre-halves were beaten up at Rochdale. How many times did their centre-forwards or midfielders get ruffled? He said, ours get it all the time. There are elbows and heads going in. It's a man's game. They are much too nice, but it's up to us. This is down to them as individuals. They have to learn the game. Yes, but again, you've got to coach them, Steve Lovell. You can't just keep distancing yourself from bad performances, and yet when we win games you say, oh yeah, we've all worked hard together on the training pitch, and you know, we've all put plans in place. It's got to be the same if we're winning games, drawing games, losing games. For me at the moment, you're just distancing yourself from poor performances too readily and trying to blame the players. I'm not saying they're faultless, but you're in charge of them at the end of the day, and at the moment we don't look like scoring a goal, let alone winning a football match, unfortunately. That's probably about it from me tonight. I looked at the highlights. I wasn't at the game. Like I say, fair play to anyone who travelled. The first goal, ridiculously poor. It's a long ball. Max Amar doesn't do enough with his header for me. Calvin Andrew playing right wing. We lost to a team that had Calvin Andrew at right wing and Aaron Wilbraham at left wing. Combined age of about 75, I think. Muscles Bradley Garmston off the ball too easily. Muscles Alex Lacey off the ball too easily and bundles it through to Ian Henderson, who scored the first of his hat-trick. His third goal's a really good finish, don't get me wrong, but defensively we're all over the show again. Too much time, too much space for everyone, and we just let them play. And the more that continues, we're only going to end up struggling all season, unfortunately. And at the moment, Burton and Accrington just seem a million miles away. It's a completely different side to we saw the first 2 games of the season, and something's got to change, and something's got to change fast. And I'm not for 1 minute sitting here saying I want Steve Lovell gone, but I think as myself and Boz said last week, it's a results business and you have to be winning football matches in this modern game. Otherwise, suddenly your time becomes very short, and at the moment, can't see where a goal's coming from, let alone a victory. So it needs to change. It needs to start Saturday at home to Peterborough. Fingers crossed we can get something against them and then build a bit of momentum and try and increase the confidence levels. But that's enough from me tonight. Sadly, it's the second Monday review on the bounce where I can't really be too positive about much. As I say, thanks for watching as always. Thanks for your support. Let us know what you thought if you was there. Let us know what needs to be done to change it. And until next time, up the Gills.